Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high must leave the court immediately.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Hey guys, so it's spooky season. Everybody getting ready?
Oh my God, so getting ready. But on top of getting ready, it's also the World Series, and the New York Yankees are in it. And what?
and Audrey went to our first World Series game the other night, Game 3. So how was that?
It was freaking amazing. Everybody and their mother wanted me to sell my ticket. I was like, hell no, we won't go. There. I enjoyed and embraced every moment of it. They gave out like the scarves. They were the thinnest scarves I've ever seen. I'm not really sure what they were supposed to protect against, but it was super cool. And Derek Jeter threw out the first pitch.
Oh, it wasn't your guy Paul O'Neill though. You missed it.
Oh, but he did throw out the next. He's throwing out the next game's pitch. So he threw out yesterday's pitch.
For people who don't know, Audrey is a huge fan of Paul O'Neill, and I think we might have said this on the show. You've bumped into him in real life a couple times. And you've clammed up every single time.
Yes, I run away. I actually got back in my car one day when I saw him walking by because I was like, not today, sir. No, I look like crap. Not that even if I didn't look like crap, I would have been able to go up to him because it's just, I don't know. I've met people in the music industry, actors, like I've been in these circles and communicated with these people like they're athletes, like nothing. Like, yeah. They are who they are. But for some reason, there's like that core of like the New York Yankees, or there are just certain, the Rangers, like there are just certain people that if they walk by me, I'm probably just going to end up on the floor. I was actually at a birthday party too. And there was a hockey player there. And we were talking, and they were talking about an event that they were going to have and all of these people, and they started bringing up baseball players. And the wife is like, oh, you should definitely invite these people. And the response was, do you just want her on the floor? Like, we want her to enjoy her time. Oh. Because they know my innate response to these players that they're talking about is just like, I don't know why. I know they put on their pants the same way we do. I know that they're so much bigger than the professional moments that they've had in their careers, and that they are only people, but they're still like, I grew up just having these memories and moments that I will never forget because of them. Yep. And they were amazing. And I was actually talking to someone about this recently. I have dissociative disorder. That was triggered during my time in the military. And so I've learned not to value the actual situations themselves and more to, it's about the feeling. Yep. It's about the feeling that I associate with something or someone or a place or whatever. So these players, I associate happiness and joy and just passion. So they're a great place for me. So I think I just get overwhelmed.
Yeah, not to break it down, but it's like your happy place.
Yes.
And yeah, and takes you back to every. I get made fun of so much because I don't really cry a lot, but so when Wayne Gretzky retired, I was probably in my late 20s. I'm watching the game, and I'm weeping, and I'm like, my grandfather died, a couple of years ago. I didn't cry like that, and I was like, what? And I realized, obviously, it was like I see my childhood end, and that was my childhood. And I was,
in a different era.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what that is. It's not. I don't really, So that, I get it. But you're doing the other end. You're in your happy place, and that's cool. You get that warm feeling. You feel home and safe, and that's awesome. And that's why I see you at games, and you're like a little kid.
I was at the game. Yeah. I was the crazy chick sitting there, like with a smile on my face and tears falling down my face, because Fat Joe's in front of me. Spike Lee
Yeah.
literally like got out of my way because I was going to the bathroom and I wasn't looking because I get around too many people and my directive,
Yep.
my eyesight goes down to the floor and I just see, I'm aware, I have spatial awareness, but I just don't want to look at it.
Yeah, you get tunnel vision.
Yes. So I was going to the restroom and I'm going inside and I'm walking by the tables. So where my seats are, you can go inside to the stadium and there's like food and private restrooms and that aren't part of the general area within the stadium. And I'm walking by the tables and I see other people walking towards me. So I move over to get out of the way and they stopped moving. So now I have to look up because now it's awkward. Now we're all just waiting for each other. So I look up and it's Spike Lee and he's like, no, you go. And I'm like, okay, I see you. And it was just like, holy shit, this is my life. Like this is really happening. And I don't know. I just felt very blessed in that moment and I loved it. And I was sad when they lost. And I actually started getting really depressed and kind of might have started falling asleep.
No.
I did fall asleep.
In fairness, as a baseball fan for life, it was a snoozer of a game. Last night was much more.
They were losing. It was fucking awful. And I was just so like overwhelmed with emotion that my body was just like, okay, nap time.
Well, they did win Game 4, and hopefully they're going to make a miraculous, historic comeback. So we'll be rooting tonight.
Hey, if the Rangers can lose 4 in a row, the Yankees can win.
Yeah, listen.
For now.
Yeah,
for now.
So as a massive Yankee fan, Audrey, this is a good time for you. You have the Yankees, you have the Rangers, the Jets are terrible, and Knights are pretty good. So you
talk about that. They have a 7% chance of making the playoffs.
And a 93% chance of not making it. So there you go. But I like your optimism. It's awesome. And it's Halloween. What are you guys dressing as? Do you guys dress?
I have 7 options.
All right.
I have not figured out what I'm going with yet.
Okay. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet. I don't even know what we're doing. Connecticut's kind of boring for Halloween. And like, they don't do like the big group.
Florida.
We're going with the hockey team, so I don't think I won't be dressed, but the kids will all be dressed.
Yeah.
So.
I'm staying home to give out candy, but they're going out on the golf cart.
Oh, that's cool.
They're going to decorate the golf cart because it just makes it easier to go from one house to another.
That's a Florida thing right there.
Florida.
That's a Florida thing for sure. It's gonna be awesome. But today we have someone who you kind of have some similarities with. You have someone who's a vet, military vet, mental health advocate, and into
TMA.
TMA, into fast cars and into motorcycles. Yeah. So this should be a good episode. We'll talk about veterans health, mental health, and what people can do to make sure they got each other's back. You always talk about your battles all the time, and you got to stick up for them.
And with the whole mental health component, I think it's so important for people to realize that because someone doesn't remember the specific trauma and they blocked it out doesn't mean that they don't remember the feeling. And that feeling can be so strong and overwhelming and compensating. And it becomes the only thing that you pay attention to. And there are just so many outlets that you don't have to be afraid to reach out to. So if you get there, do not be afraid. I have lost battles, which is what the military term is for people in the military with you, to mental health that have taken their lives.
Yeah. Hopefully anybody listening to this will find some resources on how to get help for themselves.
There's always a resource, or there's always someone to talk to.
There's always
someone that will pick up the phone. There is. You just have to look for them.
And there's fast cars too.
Oh yeah. And there's always an outlet to find out. Maybe you just need to find your peace somewhere else. So I can't wait to find out how TMA found her peace. And we're about to do that now, I guess.
All right.
Let's roll.
Rule 42. Here we go.
I don't know why I posed.
1, 2, 3, 42.
how are you doing today? Welcome to Rule 42. I am Audrey. Welcome to our Wacky Wednesdays.
I love it.
I'm Jen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you and your creepy guy in the corner.
Me, Harry.
No, not me. Not me.
Not Harry.
Styles. Harry
I mean,
Styles.
You're talking about Harry when she said in the corner, like, and creepy. But I mean, we can go with you too.
No.
Look, I'm leaning into the
I mean, Tommy is in his own corner up on top. So
Yeah.
I mean,
He's our Alice and our squares. So nice to meet you, Tia. Welcome to our show. I can't wait to hear more about you between becoming a member of the military and joining in on your Crazy Car Chicks, and how one journey led to the next, and definitely about being home, like at the end of kind of that point where you don't really know where your life is going and having no alternatives because you have nowhere to go. So a lot of people find themselves in those situations, and a lot of people find themselves giving up in those situations and not being able to continue forward. So to find out how you went from there to here, and I don't know what your current situation is, and I'm hoping that it's so much better than it was. But we can't wait to find out. So tell us more about you and the beginning of your journey so that we can understand how Crazy Car Chik came about.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I love coming on and talking about basically, I mean, my whole life as a whole has been massively chaotic from actually probably before I was even born. My parents were both alcoholics, and the relationship between them was very very toxic, fighting and literally trying to kill each other at one point. And so from things I've read, you can actually be affected while you're in the womb. Like if your mother is going through stressful situations, you take on the extra cortisol as you're, when you're in the womb. So my trauma started before birth. And luckily I'm at a point in my life that I can talk about it. It's not something that like really holds me down anymore I'm 42 now, and I've gone through a lot of therapy. I've gone through different sessions and, this and that, whatever. And so now I'd like to tell people my story so that they can probably relate at some point. I've been through a lot, so I can relate to a lot of people, and I hope that they can see that no matter what situation you find yourself in, you can make it better. Like I said, my home life was extremely toxic. So at 17, my mom threw me out on the street. She literally pushed me out the door, locked it, and said, good riddance. I had the clothes on my body, and then that was it. There was no cell phones back then. So I think I had to walk about 4 miles in the cold to phone. I lived in friends' basements. Literally would hide because a lot of their parents weren't really okay with taking on a new teenager. So they would sneak me food, and like I would sneak in and out of the house. And I started working. I had dropped out of high school to work full time and pretty much, try to figure out what I was going to do. There was at one point I started living with a drug dealer. I would deal marijuana, like little bits and, here and there to try to make some extra money. And there was a point, I was doing a lot of drugs. Like when I wasn't working, I was partying all the time, trying to forget about, the truth that was my life. I had been discarded like a bag of trash, and it was kind of hard to be happy. You can party and have fun, but internally you're not happy. You're pretty destroyed.
You're masking.
Yeah, you're masking. I've spent honestly the last 42 years masking, like my true feelings, like my true personality, like all of it. But there reached a point where I think I had done too much, had taken too much. I think I did shrooms at the time, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, this is awful. This is not where I want to be. These are not the people I want to be surrounding myself with. And so that's when I reached out to an Army recruiter, and I was like, I'm pretty much homeless, living with a drug dealer. Like, how soon can you get me, out of here? I need to get away. My dad and his dad were both Army. And so it was kind of like a given. And they had asked me if I could pass a drug test, and I was like, probably not. And so they gave me a whole box of testing strips so that once I, was able to pass a drug test, I was able to join the military. I passed my ASVAB with flying colors, so they offered me pretty much any job I wanted. And funny thing was, I asked them, I said, I just don't want to work with a bunch of women because I don't usually get along well with women. Like, I play sports. All of my friends are dudes. And I want to be outside. I do not want to be trapped in a building. I do not want to be pushing paper. Like, I want a physical job, And so I went into communications, which was my recruiter's job, putting up antennas out in the field. And I absolutely loved that part. Like, I loved my job, for the people that I got to work with in the military. But that was, let's see, 20, almost 24 years ago. And being a woman in that situation was quite literally hell. I mean, I was sexually harassed almost every single day, told that I wasn't good enough to be there. Their standards for body weight were absolutely ridiculous. And so they actually put me on the fat program. And I was the smallest I'd ever been in my adult life. I've never been that small. I was barely 140 pounds. And they put me on the fat program. Basically told me to starve myself regularly. And I did. I would go to the sauna for 2 hours a day. I would work out for 3 hours a day. And I was pure muscle, and I was just heavy, I was in amazing shape, but I was berated and made fun of and all these things for being fat, Yeah. So high school, I got bullied a lot, and the military, I got bullied a lot.
Well, I just like to interject just for a moment.
Go ahead.
I would like to point out that the dynamic between what would happen today if you were to make the same choices in terms of your children versus what happened then when children were basically discarded is insane. You can't get rid of them anymore. No. You can kick them out if they were beating the living shit out of you and destroyed your house. You could not get them out of your door because you will be the one arrested.
Yeah, I was literally the only thing, I never talked back to my mom. I never really did anything besides be a normal teenager. I wasn't good at cleaning. My room was always
misconception people have. Their parents treat them the way that they do because of something wrong innately in themselves. And coming from an abusive household, it's not, it's their problem. It's their issues that create that chaos and trauma and toxicity in your life. It has nothing to do with the individual. But I'd also like to point out, as a veteran myself, everyone's experience in the military is also different. There are opportunities that you will not realize or think of. And you were on the street, so you made it. It was a choice that you were taking to get out of your situation. Some people can find themselves in the military. And yes, it was, because I haven't been in the military for over 20 years either. 20 years. It was a different experience being a female in it. And yes, every neighbor that I had, every female that I spoke to, older men that had been in the military before were very aware and had experienced some sort of sexual trauma while in the military. Again, things have changed over the past 20 years. So I just don't want people to think that because one person's experience is highly traumatic, that there's no value in it. I actually used to be one of the people that trained Fat Camp. So I know what you're talking about. And I never went through the body shaming issues, but I was really couldn't. I mean, I saw a girl get kicked out because she was too little. She couldn't carry the weight of the equipment, and she would literally just fall over every time she put a rucksack on. So they had to figure out. But So I just wanted to look, because my children, I have given them 3 choices in life at this point, because they are very spoiled and everything is about me, and life just is, they have an this unrealistic expectation of what life is once they get out there. So they can go to school and then continue on to college, and I will support that. Their senior year in high school, they can get a job, because if they do not plan on going to school, then the year they graduate from high school, they need to find their own place and learn what the real world is and what real life is and what paying bills are. Because if you're not going to further your education, it is not my job to take care of you for the rest of your life. Third is to join the military. If you do not know what you want to do, where you want to be, and you are completely lost and don't know what's out there, join the military. They will provide you structure. You will get a regular check. And yeah, someone will still be there telling you what to do, because obviously you have no clue what you want to do, and that's okay. But those are the choices that I laid out for my children. And so I just wanted to put that out there, just in case my kids are listening. I'm not throwing you in to get assaulted or have an awful experience. You just need to know what the real world is, because walk out that door, a guy can grab you on the street and rape you. So
Yeah.
I love that you actually found a path for yourself within a structure that you weren't used to, because again, abusive household, you go into something, there's all of these rules that it's like, what do you mean you expect me to be in bed by this time and my bed has to be made? Fuck you, you go make it.
But you know what's funny, and I'm extremely neurodivergent. Like I've started the process of getting like all of my evaluating and stuff done, so I know exactly what I'm working with. But for me, having a structure is absolutely crucial. If I don't have a structure, I never did growing up. Like my mom was like, "All right, come home when it's dark." Like, there was no communication. There was no, where are you going? There was nothing. Like, just go do whatever you want. And she expected me to be this structured little person, which made
The lights came on.
you know? So being in the military and literally not having to think about anything and just, hey, here's your schedule. Here's what you have to do. I killed it. Like, I'm so good. And I love shooting guns. I love blowing stuff up. I love like hard labor. I love being outside. So it was amazing. That part of it was amazing. It's great. I got to travel. I lived in Korea for a year. And sadly we had protesting going on pretty much the whole time I was there. So I got to taste the outside of the base, for a few months, and it was amazing. There are benefits to it. And I'm really hoping that things have come a long way in the last 20 years. But I've heard great things about the Air Force. I haven't heard a lot of people talk, badly about the Air Force. So if you're thinking about that, that might be a good choice. But so I got a bunch of vaccinations to go to Korea, and this is where my entire life pretty much took a really bad turn. Within a few weeks of getting the vaccinations for Korea, my whole body started to hurt. And they thought I was trying to be lazy because I was like, I can't run. I can't lift weights. I can't do anything. It hurts too much. And I went through
How far into your military career was this?
Say what?
How far into your military career was this?
I went to Korea right after AIT. So that was my first duty station.
Okay, so people understand when you join the military, you go through basic training, which can be, like 8 weeks, 9 weeks?
9 weeks for basic, and then my AIT was 12 weeks, I believe, and that's basically going to college, like a short college for whatever your job is, so you can understand what it is you're going to be doing. And then
so linguistics go for like 9 months. Depending on what your job is, your AIT, MOS training can change. That's why I was trying to give people a scope of how long before you started.
IT was about 12 weeks. So we've got 9 weeks, 12 weeks. I suck at math. Don't ask me to math that. But
about 5 months.
I would say it was my first 2 to 3 months of being in Korea that I got to be really bad. Like my everything started hurting. So they put me on limited PT, I was constantly going to the doctor, like trying to figure out what was going on. They couldn't figure it out. So I literally started living on pain medicine. At one point I was taking, I believe, 6 Percocet a day. So I was just flipping through life and still in pain. Like, it didn't take away like all the pain. And when I got back from Korea in 2002, was it 2002, 2003? So from 2003 to 2004, I was at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and they put me in the gym, running the gymnasium since I couldn't do my job. And
Wait,
so basically
they put the person that couldn't work out, that couldn't run, that couldn't.
No, I was running the gym. I was in charge of signing people in. I wasn't working out. Like, I was in charge of all the soldiers that would come clean. I was like management.
Makes better. Okay.
She's like, wait, what?
Talk about poor decision making.
Yeah, you're in pain. Go work out more.
You will run this step class.
It took me about a year to a year and a half to out process. And I mean, I was pretty much treated like, a big failure. And, even though it wasn't my fault. And so I out processed into civilian life, disabled. And I had a boyfriend at the time who we were together for 6 months, and I found I was pregnant.
Was he a civilian or was he in the military?
He was in the military.
Okay.
And I knew before I found out I was pregnant that I was probably not going to stay in that relationship. It wasn't a good one. He was an alcoholic, and he got very aggressive whenever he would drink. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was actually torn on. I was thinking about fleeing. Like, I was going to run home and not tell him because it was just a really bad situation. But I stayed with him, as we often do as trauma survivors. And that was just a whole nother, one of several really bad relationships that I've survived. Luckily he stayed deployed for most of the time we were together, so I didn't have to deal with him a whole lot. But I did end up the start of my daughter's life was just me and her, like raising her as a single mom. And he moved me to his hometown where I didn't know anybody. It was in Oxford, Mississippi. And it's a very kind of...
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Minnesota.
And he moved you to Mississippi.
It was named Oxford, Mississippi, which is a very wealthy town, old money, and everybody knows everybody. So, yeah, he pretty much left me there with no connections. So it's very, very, very hard transition out of the military. Not only was I disabled, but I was a single mom in a place where I didn't know anybody. So I knew that was not the life that I wanted. So that was, the next step was figuring out, okay, what am I going to do now? I tried really hard to find work. I went through a couple of different random jobs. I was like a dog groomer, and I worked at a loan office. And I'm trying to think. So I went to a town called Tupelo, which is where Elvis was born. Tupelo is not far from Ole Miss or from Oxford, sorry. And I loved the vibe there compared to Oxford. Everybody was super friendly. Everybody was super chill. It was a completely different world. And so I was like, okay, next step, I need to find a way to move there. Like, get out of this town. This town's not serving me at all. So get out of this town. So I moved, me and my daughter, well, obviously broke up with her, divorced her dad, moved to Tupelo, and went through another bad relationship. Trying to think. So get to Tupelo. Okay, so after another bad relationship, I met my current husband. So we've known each other. Yeah. Yay. Something positive. So we've known each other for 14 years. I was coming out of another bad relationship. and he was in the music scene. I was starting kind of my my role into a photographer. I did photography for all the local bands. I showed up to as many shows as I could to do pictures for them. And from the moment we met, I guess he'd been trying to meet me for like 6 months. Like, he had a huge crush on me, said that, I was his dream girl and he wanted to marry me.
Aw. That's awesome.
But I was married at the time. So it was a process of me getting out of my, marriage. And we've pretty much been inseparable since the day we first met. Like, we've spent, other than travel for work, we've spent every single day together the last 14 years. So when we met, he had told me that he wanted to move to California or to Nashville. And I had visited Nashville for a girls' weekend, and I absolutely loved it. I would say 14 years ago, it was a very chill place. Downtown is not really that chill anymore, but at the time it was super chill. Everybody was so friendly, and it's based out of art and music. And I was like, that's where we need to go. California is super expensive, dude, and it's way farther away. So we picked up, I literally told him after he said that, I get my mind on something and I jump. I don't ask questions. I don't make plans. And I think that's the survivalist in me, is that I just go for what I feel. I just follow my gut. And after he told me he wanted to go to Nashville because he was a musician, I think it was just like within the next month, I told him, I was like, I've got a job. I'm selling all of my stuff and I'm moving to Nashville. And he was like, what? He was like, wait, I said eventually. And I was like, no, there is no eventually. Mississippi is not for me. Okay. I've tried 2 different towns. There's nothing here for me. Like, I'm an artist. I need a big city to just, to grow and to, whatever. So yeah, I literally sold almost everything I owned. My daughter at this time was 5 or 6, and I had a Honda Fit, and I packed everything I could into that car up to the ceiling. I had $100 in my bank account, and I moved to Nashville. I stayed on a woman who we had met on Facebook. Stayed on her yeah. I stayed on her couch or her futon for like 3 months.
Wow.
And so my daughter's like, hey, when are we going to go home? And I was like, oh, we're looking for an apartment right now. And we found an apartment in Antioch, not the greatest neighborhood, but it was super affordable. And I just didn't let my daughter play outside by herself. You just do what you got to do. We came here. The job that I've moved here for lasted 3 days. So after 3 days, I had no job. I had no money. I went to work for a sign company.
Like the ones that spin the signs?
The hold the sign up?
No, the ones that make the signs.
Oh. I was like,
I love the way you think, though. Let me go to the sign spinner. No, I wasn't spinning signs. Remember, I'm not spinning signs.
We like being outdoors.
I love the fact that it was a creative environment. They were doing design work and stuff like that. And my goal was to actually get into the design part, but I never made it that far. I'm really good at customer service. I love talking to people, if you can't tell. So I did that job for about a year, and it got to the point.
Hey.
Yeah, I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. My hands were really starting to bother me, like typing on the computer and answering the phones. And so I made the decision, I talked it over with my now husband, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I have to drop out, but like, I don't know what we're going to do for money. And he was like, you're not happy. You're hurting. He was like, go back to the doctor, figure out what you got to do. And so I started really pushing to raise my disability, because at the time, when they kicked me out of the military, they only gave me 40%, even though I could barely walk. Like, everything from my head to my toes was messed up. So I spent a couple years fighting for my disability. We jumped around a couple of different places until finally we decided we're gonna go buy a house, and it all landed on me getting my disability, and I got my disability, I think, 30 days before we closed on the house. So
that's awesome.
It was like one of those moments where you're like, oh, I can breathe, because I didn't think we were going to be able to afford this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out as often as I feel like if you're pushing for something, it often does. So I try not to stress too much about things.
No, everything I feel like always works out. It always works out.
I feel like everything happens for a reason. Like it just always, after I go through a really hard time, I always have this feeling like, oh wow, this is why this happened. Like this led me to this. So now, point where like just like right now, I know you were talking about, I hope you're in a better place. Well, me and my husband for the last 3 months have gone through a massive like pit, let's say. He lost his job for medical reasons, and so for the last 3 months we've been surviving on my income alone, which is not, it's enough to barely pay like the main bills. So it's been stressful, but guess what? We got paid today. First time in 3 months. So breathe again. He's got a good job now. Hopefully that's gonna be a good place for him, and things are only gonna go up from here. But not to veer off. So we're in Nashville. We have a house, really nice neighborhood. We now have 2 kids. We had a daughter in 2014, and then we had another daughter in 2016. So we've got 3 girls, which that right there is just enough to. It's a lot. Girls are interesting.
I have 7 kids.
Yeah,
So,
I have 5, but mine are all almost boys. I just got 1 girl.
I have 3 girls and 4 boys, so they're fun.
when we first moved here, my husband was pursuing music and I was pursuing art. And for the first 10 years, I was a very successful artist. I did canvas paintings like you can see back there. I did body paint for music videos and magazines. I lived it up. Like I did all the things until I absolutely couldn't anymore. Like I said, I lost the dexterity in my hands about 2 years ago. And when that happened, that was another one of those moments where you fall into a pit, because I had been an artist my entire life. I mean, from the time I was 2 until the time I was 40. So 38 years. It was like my obsession, my passion. And I feel like I kind of went through a identity crisis. Like I didn't know who I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to do. I didn't know if I was going to be able to hold the value that I had when I was an artist. I actually had learned how to tattoo also for like the last 2 years before I lost my hands.
A lot, yeah. And
I had a waiting list of probably 2 years of people that wanted to get tattooed by me.
Well,
and
amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I mean, like immediately I'm envisioning like going, traveling around the world and doing competition and like becoming this world-renowned tattoo artist. And it was cut short. I barely made it through my apprenticeship and really started to get comfortable before I realized that it just wasn't going to happen. I dab. I won't lie. What is a cat?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I won't lie. I dabble in it once in a while. I gave my daughter her first tattoo when she after she turned 18. I was like, I've got to do it. I was like, I was like, I know it's gonna hurt me, but I've got to. Like nobody else is putting
so much more meaningful having a tattoo from mom too. Like that's cool.
It was actually our dog that we had him for 11 years. He was kind of like my emotional support, and he passed away on Valentine's Day, like 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in February. And so she got his paw print on her wrist, and it was. Well, yeah, we were both very emotional through the whole thing because she was in pain and she wasn't taking it very well.
Aw.
But we made it. She made it through. And she, of course, she wants more. And I was like, well, you can find somebody that's really good to do your other tattoos. I'm okay with that.
I had a friend that decided when he was going to get a tattoo. He, these guys go in there and they're all macho.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Got this, and he passed out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He probably didn't eat before because that's what a lot
of people.
I always this first thing I tell somebody. I'm like, have you eat today? Okay, we're gonna go have a sandwich.
I went to this tattoo shop in California. They actually had drinks and snacks.
Yes.
For you. I was like, that is so smart. I love that.
Because so many people come on purpose.
Yes.
Well, it's also California, so most of them are high, too.
True. But I'm just saying, they had a whole array of snacks. Like, you had chips and cookies, and I was like, I love you guys. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
I don't understand how the people in California are so skinny, because I went with Jen, and let me tell you, the food there was phenomenal, and I was eating all day, and I'd be on my 100-pound life in no time. So,
yeah.
I
bet we were eating pretty healthy, though.
I was going to say they have a lot healthier standard of food in California. So let's see, 2000 and God, time is so awful.
Yeah.
2020.
Because as you get older, blink and it just passes.
Yeah.
It goes so fast. And then you have adults as kids, and you're like, what is going on here?
So in 2022, that was when I made the realization that I needed to find another passion. And I actually had gone to the drag strip just for fun, just went to visit. I hadn't been to the track in like forever because I was really big into it when I was in my 20s before I had my first daughter. So I went to the track, and I went to where they launched the cars on the drag strip. And I sat there for about 4.5 hours. And I just literally like gripped the fence and was screaming the whole time. And the guys next to me were just cracking up because they thought thing. And I was like,
hello?
I was like, it was an epiphany at that moment, like, why didn't I think of this? And I guess it was having kids always made me feel like I needed to do like the responsible thing. And everybody always makes it out to like, you're doing danger. Like,
I have a question in terms of like, were they ever able to figure out whether or not the vaccine was linked to what was going on?
So they're not gonna say that. They're not gonna admit that. That's a huge liability. They have just determined that I now have an autoimmune disorder. My immune system has gone into hyper reactive mode. So literally anything that's unnatural. So any artificial colors, artificial sweeteners, and a lot of processed, like literally, I think I'm supposed to eat like fruits and vegetables, and meat seems to be safe, although I have tried really hard to cut back meat because I'm a big animal lover, and I feel so guilty. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love meat, but I feel bad about it. So I was in the process of actually trying to cut out meat. I created a vegan wannabe page on Facebook actually for it, and then find out that like meat is one of the only things that I can eat that doesn't bother me. Isn't that great?
I mean,
so life has a way of
It does.
Like, oh, you want to be vegan? No, you can't.
You can only eat meat.
You can only eat meat.
Everything else
because like on it, like the sugars in fruit can actually, I think like, so I've been doing research and trying all these things for the last, over a decade, trying to figure out what makes me feel better, and not eating makes me feel great. That's the only time I don't have any pain is if I don't eat. So like I actually have lost, I think 30 pounds in the last year because I've just cut back on eating. I just kind of dabble in food or try to, and I go up and down, but the doctor's like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, well, you can't figure out how to fix this without injecting me with horrible chemicals. Like they want me to be on, basically it's like a chemo drug, and they've been begging me to go back on it. I was on it for 2 years, and yes, it works great, but basically all it does is kill my immune system. So then I am more susceptible to everything. Like I get sick all the time. I catch every cold. The stomach bug will literally take me out for like 6 days. I lost 17 pounds the last time I got the stomach bug. Everybody in my family puked for like 2 or 3 minutes, and I was throwing up for 6 days.
I feel like that's a problem too, is they give you medications that are supposed to fix one thing, but then you have like so many side effects of other things that are wrong. Like, why can't we get to the root of the problem and try to fix it naturally?
Well,
there are so many plants and stuff that actually...
There's no money in that.
I know, it just
I've come to the realization that big pharma is
exactly
is a big thing in the United States, especially. That's why I'm guessing that's why they allow all the chemicals in our food, because that makes everybody sick, and then they need medicine.
It's like when you look at food from here and like Europe and like the same type of food, ours has all the chemicals. Theirs is like more natural
and we have the highest rate of charging for medical practices and medicine. Crazy, because it's like, I'm telling you what happened to me. I was a very healthy person my entire life up until the day that I got the vaccines to go to Korea. And it's not necessarily the vaccines are the problem. It's the fact they gave me so many so quickly. Like, they're supposed to give them on a schedule. And because they're on a time crunch, they're just like, here, just take them all at the same time. And there's a very high rate, especially in women, having autoimmune disorders after being in the service. Like, it's just a fact. But
wow,
feel free to bleep those things out. Whatever you need to do.
So they literally, when they vaccinate you, they have you all in a room and
cattle.
Have you line up
on the line.
Have your back so you're facing the wall, and they're literally just going down, and they've got your ass cheek kind of out. And they're vaccinating you with all of these vaccines at once. And they hurdle you back out into the hallway to stand there and wait for whatever it is that the next step. And I mean, again, this has been 20 years that have passed between this occurred and me no longer being in the military. But that is the reality of the expectation that is placed on the people that are joining the military. They just they generalize everything for everyone, and it becomes just this process that's done without consideration of like, not everyone responds to everything the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah, my dad's a vet. I didn't serve, but so you're just, when you go and you basically just hand over your body autonomy to them.
Yeah.
This one guy got in trouble. He broke his hand and he got written up for breaking government property. And when he was like, but I didn't break anything. I didn't break anything. They said, you broke your hand. You are property of the United States.
Yeah, I actually asked them when we were lining up for the vaccines. I was like, well, can I get a list of the vaccines that I'm getting? They said no. And I was like, well, I don't want to take anything if I don't know what it is. And they said, if you don't take it, you'll get a dishonorable discharge. We can take you out right now. And I was like, well, that'll follow me forever. Like, I don't want to do that. But now,
so that's a common misconception. When you join the military and you were still in basic training, there are loopholes. Just because you were in does not mean that once you get there, you are able to acclimate to the life, because it is a completely different life and lifestyle. So when you are in this, there are ways to get out that they threaten you like that. It does not.
Well, yeah. And as a 19-year-old kid, like, you don't.
Exactly. That's why we educate them now.
Yes.
So like I said, in 2022, I had the motorsports bug bit me hard, and I had been going to what's called Cars and Coffee here in Nashville for several years, and I was just going because I wanted to go see the cars. I wanted to go. I made some friends there and was taking pictures and videos. It was just a thing I did once a month.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hobby.
But, I'm sorry?
It was a hobby.
Yeah, it was just something I looked forward to on that weekend. And you never knew what you were going to see. It's a massive, it's just a huge car show, the first Saturday of the month. And so after going to the track, I decided, okay, what do I need to do to get into racing cars? Like, I was like, I want to drive, I want to race. I want to turn this into my next big thing. How do I even do that? And I didn't really have any funding. I have the car that I still use now, which is a 2012 GTI. And it's completely stock. So in my head, I didn't have the tools, or at least I didn't think I did. But luckily, I ran into the TRSCCA, which is the Tennessee Region, was it Sports Car Club of America, and so they had a tent at Cars and Coffee. And I'm not gonna lie, it took me several passes to get up the courage to go talk to them, because it was a tent full of men. There was no women there that day. And I had not had the best interactions with men, when it came to like cars or the military. And so I thought, oh, they're going to laugh at me, they're not going to take me seriously. But I got up the courage and I walked over to them and I was like, so what do I got to do to start racing? And they were like, do you have a car? And I was like, yeah, it's not that fast. And they're like, it's fine. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as your car is in good working condition, isn't leaking, tires are on good, and you got a helmet. It has to be, a certain rated helmet. You can come to the track and you can start racing with us. You can start doing autocross, which is basically, if you don't know, where they set up a bunch of cones. It's kind of like an obstacle course, and you have to go through it as fast as you can. It's like a time attack, single driver, so you don't have to worry about hitting anybody. You just got to worry about not hitting the cones. And I was like, okay, I can do this. All right. I did that for 3 months. I went to 3 events. I did really well. Never hit a single cone. My time definitely wasn't as fast as I wanted it to be, but my car started having issues. It was leaking. It's a Volkswagen. It does that.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, the oil. I mean, I've had the car 6 years, and it's just a constant chasing of the leak. So I parked my car. And I noticed that they were drifting. There was a couple of drift cars up there. And so I walked over and I asked them, I said, hey, can I take a ride in the drift car? Like, I've never been in a drift car. Like, this is all new to me. I've never seen anybody go drifting before. I've seen people do donuts and stuff, but nothing to that level of accuracy. And I was so excited. And Barry Clapp of Slide Factory, also Graphic Effects, the one that did all the big decals that are on my car, he took me for a ride in his Corvette, and it was life-changing, and almost everybody that does it feels the same way. It's you can't really describe it, but I was like, okay, so this is what I need to be doing. Like, now I have to get a drift car. So you drive? Yeah, like I told him, and I sat down next to him, and people think you're crazy, but I sat down next to him. I said, dude, me and you are gonna do some really cool stuff. And he was like, what? And I was like, don't worry about it. And that was 19 months ago, and we have done some pretty cool stuff together. So I still don't have the drift car. I haven't figured out the whole fundraising thing. I'm not good with money, like financial stuff. All this having to market yourself is such a pain to me. Like, I just want to go do the thing I'm good at. I want to go drive the cars and go meet with people and do speaking engagements like I'm doing, and have somebody else deal with that part. But I don't have that. Available to me as of yet. So I've been putting together a merchandise store. I set up a link tree so I could have everything in one place. I've been doing all of these podcast interviews, trying to get my name out there, and going to every single event that I could possibly go to, and take as many videos and pictures and get to know every single person I could, so that I establish myself as a very serious person in the motorsports industry. And it's worked. Definitely made a lot of connections, a lot of friends. I've connected with several nonprofits. 22-0, which I completely passed over that. Right before right before I started doing the motorsport stuff and was going through the transition after losing my hands, I went through a massive decline mentally, due to the 40 years of PTSD that had been building up. And I kind of hit a wall where I told my husband, like, I can't move forward from this. Like, I'm hearing, like, it's just constant negative thoughts in my head. I feel like there's a dark cloud over me, and I don't even know what to do. I pretty much told him that if I didn't find a solution, that I would not be there, and he should start preparing to take care of the kids by himself. And I reached out to the VA. The VA told me I had two choices. Well, pretty much one choice, that I had to get in process into their mental, program or whatever, which is a minimum of 4 days. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm the sole caretaker for my kids. Like, I can't. Do you not have any other options? Like, do something. Woman literally gave me a phone number to call 3 days later, after telling her I was in basically a suicidal ideation. And I called the number and nobody answered. I called the number all day long, just in tears, like, just thought that this was be this moment where I was getting the help that I needed. And they dropped the ball pretty hard. And luckily for me, I feel like it was almost that same week, a friend of my husband's contacted him about 220. 220 does a session. I want to say it's a EMP. It was just emotional management process, and TRP, which is, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But they combine the two processes, and it doesn't require you to, like, bring up anything that's happened in your past, which is extremely helpful because especially men don't want to talk. A lot of them don't want to talk about what's happened. So a lot of them don't go through therapy. They don't seek help because they don't want to, rehash those things that have happened. And luckily, 220 has figured out that they can do a session. They can retrain the brain, basically kind of like a decompression of trauma. And it disconnects the physical reaction to your emotions and to your memories. So I went from having nightmares for 40 years. I had nightmares my entire life. I would probably get an average of 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night for the first 40 years of my life. Can't imagine why my brain didn't function properly. Like, I was, just constantly stressed out. I mean, I was having, like, nervous breakdowns, like, almost every single day, like, screaming at kids for the smallest things. And I went through the session. It took me about an hour. It was a video chat, kind of like we're doing right now. And basically, she just walked me through this process of closing my eyes and imagining certain emotions that I had gone throughout my life. Not necessarily any certain events or anything like that, just the emotions of it. And walked me through a couple of visualization exercises. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way that this simple thing that I'm doing right now is going to have any kind of major impact on my life. Like, it seemed so ridiculous. Like, I can't even describe to you. I didn't think it was going to really do anything. And she told me that after the session, she said, you're probably going to feel tired because your brain has been in a heightened state of fight or flight for pretty much your entire life. And it's going to take some time for your brain to adjust to not being in fight or flight, because we are about to shut that off right now. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, And sure enough, after I finished the session, luckily my kids were away at their grandparents' house. So I was able to go and take a nap. Like, as she said, if you feel tired, sleep. I want your brain to be able to rest. I went to sleep for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
I didn't eat. I kept some water next to the bed and I took a couple sips of water. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't do anything for 3 days. I went into hibernation. And when I came out, I was in a daze. Like, I felt like somebody literally gave me a different brain. And it wasn't working. Like, I was kind of worried. I contacted the coach that I had done my session with. And I was like, what did you do? Like, you broke me. Like, I can't function right now. I have no drive. I don't want to be around nobody. I can't live like this. You need to fix it. Like, I don't know what you did. And she was like, calm down. She's like, you don't know what it's like to run off of your own, your own energy and you've been running off of fight or flight mode for your entire life. Like, you don't even know what this is. It's going to take some time. Please give it time. Give yourself, like I said, if you feel the need to take a nap, take a nap. Let your brain heal from all the massive damage that was done. It took about 2 or 3 months where I just kind of felt kind of off. Like, I didn't have a lot of motivation. I wasn't trying to find my passion. I wasn't trying to find anything. I was just kind of going through the motions, trying to do the best I could to take care of my family, to keep my house in order. And then that was it. Like, I kind of just didn't, as a person, I don't feel like I really existed for that time. And then it just came to me. I started to feel like the sun was shining all the time, which was so weird to me because I had lived in like this dark fog for my entire life. Like, I had moments that I was happy, but that darkness was always inside of me. And I remember I was at Goodwill, like shopping with my daughter, and it just hit me all of a sudden. I was like, I'm not worried about somebody stabbing me right now. Like, I'm just shopping. I'm not worried about someone coming through the door and like some crazy event. Like, I am literally just relaxed. I have no anxiety. And I was like, It was in that moment I was like, it worked. Like, it really worked. I mean, I think I've had 2 or 3 nightmares in the last 2.5 years. And I was having nightmares every single night. So that's when I realized part of the whole motorsports thing. I was like, I have to use my story and I have to tell people about this because this is absolutely insane. Like, this is not only life-changing, but life-saving. Because like I said, I was on my deathbed. Mentally, I was ready to go. And now I don't even know what depression is. Like, I up until yesterday, I was the brokest I've been in the last 15 years. I got down to $28 in my account. And I mean, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't really worried. In the past, that would have broke me. I would have been losing my crap. I would have been yelling at my kids and everything would have been awful and I would have been depressed and I would have been crying and, I would have just fallen apart. And it just doesn't bother me. Like, I'm like, it's fine. We'll figure it out. And the more time that passes, the better it gets. Like, my confidence has grown so much. Like, I can just walk up to anybody, doesn't matter who it is, and I can ask them anything. I don't care. Like, I do. Everywhere I go, I introduce myself to people. I tell them what my mission is, and everybody's like, why do you talk to so many people? I was like, because I constantly meet people that connect me to other people, and I have made so many connections. I have had so many amazing experiences.
Networking is a huge part of getting your message across.
And so it has been, so that's why my whole mission, I put 22-0 all the way across my car. I put on there that there's veteran stickers, there's Army stickers. Like, I want people to know, if you are a veteran, if you're a first responder, if you're a family, immediate family member of a, military member or first responder, that session is completely free. It only took me 1 hour, and it literally saved my life and changed my life. I mean, I am like a rocket shooting for the stars, where I was digging a hole and I was ready to just bury myself, and so how could you not scream it on the rooftop when you know that there's so many people? I talk to veterans almost every day that tell me, oh yeah, I've got the PTSD, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, that's not it. Like that's not, doesn't have to be that way. When you can literally have an hour phone call with someone and change your life forever, and quit having the nightmares, quit being so vigilant about what's possibly going to happen, quit worrying about bombs blowing up behind you. Like, you're not at war anymore. You can be happy and you can live the life of your dreams. All you got to do is reach out.
And to those that are listening that have been down that rabbit hole, and most of the people I know, including myself, have gone down that rabbit hole, and I've actually lost people down it. There are alternatives, and I know that sometimes people forget to even reach out to each other because they feel like no one else cares, or like they don't matter. Always reach out.
Not going to understand, or people aren't going to understand what's going on in your head.
Or you don't want to be a burden. I feel like the hardest part is like, let's say your friends are really happy and like they're talking about all these great things. The last thing you want to do is drop the sadness bomb, But what a lot of people forget is that, I know for me, it makes me so happy to be able to help someone. Yeah. So like if even if it's just they need somebody to talk to, they need somebody to vent to, after I'm done, I feel so happy that they turned to me, that I was a person that they felt comfortable sharing that with, and that if they do feel better, I had a hand in making that happen. So yeah, it does suck to kind of bring the mood down, but the only way to go up is to go down sometimes. You got to go down in there and take it up.
I've had battles not make that call and not reach out, and it's not fun to come home to someone that's no longer with you.
Yeah.
Because no struggle is worth that, and there's always someone out there that you can reach out to. And Tommy will definitely provide numbers that for across the board to those that are in need of any kind of mental health beyond what Tia has discussed today. There are numbers that will answer the call regardless, and that aren't friends if you feel like someone's going to judge you, because there is a better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Tia, so much for being a part of bringing that message out there and letting people know that there is a rainbow out there. Like, you can be at rock bottom. I've been there. Jen's been there. We've all been there. But it doesn't mean to just, you can climb out of it, and it is possible. And definitely, are there any events that Crazy Car Chik is happening coming up soon? Anything you're excited about?
Yeah, we've got one on Saturday. Slide Factory is having their annual Halloween party, which I absolutely love. I'm waiting on my costume right now, and I'm praying that it gets here. Because I'm going to be a big fat teddy bear, and I'm going to run around and dance, and I'm going to try to see if I can trick a few people to think that I'm like fake and like jump out.
Like you're one of the...
I love that.
I can't wait. So I'm really hoping it gets here. So yeah, Saturday, actually National Cars and Coffee is that morning as well. And then inside the track from the track 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, November 2nd. And then November 9th through the 10th, I'm heading down to Driven Luck down in Bryant, Alabama. They are having a veterans event. They're going to be doing a flag ceremony on the track each morning. I am so excited to go down there and drive my little car, even though it's not a drift car. I'm gonna go put my car there. It's for the flag ceremony so that I can be part of it. And I'm actually gonna see if there's a person down there willing to let me borrow their car so I can get some drifting laps in. And there's an event in Colorado actually that I went to the beginning of this year that's coming up in February. The prices have gone up, so it's going to take some fundraising for me to be able to do that one. Because I've got to fly out there and get a hotel and a rental car and then rent the drift car. So it can be a little bit more expensive of a trip. But if we get the fundraising, then I would like to take at least one veteran out there and pay for everything for them. So
That'd be great.
always looking for sponsors for anybody that wants to help veterans get into motorsports, because it's not a cheap hobby, but it's very therapeutic. So I don't want people to think that this is just for fun. This is helped my mental health tremendously. And I talk to a lot of people at the track and I ask them all the time, do you think this is something that helps with your mental health? And they're like, absolutely, this is therapy. Everybody has things they do for therapy, and finding something that works for you is a huge part in moving forward.
And actually find a circle that's definitely more in
People that are like-minded.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's like a big family. And that's something I tell people all the time. I was like, I didn't realize how much I had missed the camaraderie of the military until I got into the drifting community. And it's like a family. I mean, people literally jump up and down when you arrive to the track. They're so excited for you to be there. And I mean, we just goof off. It's just like the military with the antics. I mean, the antics are great. Like, I'm just a goofball, and I love being surrounded with people that don't laugh at me, don't judge me for being that way.
No, that's what you want to do in life. We have one life to live. You want to circle yourself around the like-minded people that aren't going to judge you, and just understand that we just each want to get through the day. Once again, Tia, thank you so much for
thank you for having me,
and for being such an advocate on mental health wellness, and for finding a place within yourself to be able to spread that. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Rule 42 is hosted by Audrey Cruz and Jen Burke. It is produced and edited by Tom Smith. The opening song is Rule 42 by Eddie Carr. Rule 42's artwork was created by Aubrey Cruz. And I'm your announcer, Molly Smith. Thank you for listening to Rule 42. We hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes premiere every Thursday on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple.